Hey everybody, Dan Holstein here, helping your business take flight. And I'm delighted to be joined today by Krista Wright, who is a consultant and owner of a recruitment business called Recruiting Concepts. Krista, welcome.
Thank you, Dan. Delighted to be here.
Awesome. Glad you could make it. So tell me a little bit about who you serve and what you do. What does a recruiter do on a day-to-day?
Awesome. So Recruiting Concepts is a recruitment firm. We specialize typically in the tough to fulfill roles. So the ones that are a little bit more technical in nature and cause a little bit of challenge to kind of find that exact right person. So as a recruiter, I tend to help take the whole plan of hiring off of the plates of busy owners.
Yeah.
And my job is to find, attract, to vet, and ultimately to connect great people to great companies. So really, I act as a connector.
Awesome.
So,
And you mentioned something there about hard to fill roles.
yes.
So are these like technical or where there's just the skill set is in demand, but there's not a lot of supply, or?
Yeah, it can be any number of things. It's tough to fulfill, yes, and those roles can be very technical in nature and hard to find those particular skill sets. But the challenge is often, very often, is about the owners and hiring managers' time.
Right, and I guess the mistake that can be made from a hiring manager, business owner, if they're pressed for time and they really need that role fulfilled, they might rush and then not make the best hiring decision, which can be pretty costly.
Absolutely. And that's what I'm here to do, is to mitigate that risk. And I'm often the one that is taking ownership of the hiring project so that I can slow the process down well enough to take a really methodical approach to what I would refer to as cull the market, to help my clients see who's out there, who's fit, create the sort of immediate needs of what they need to hire for, but whose personalities also suit the company's culture.
Right,
And
that's critical.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. You know, you're hiring the person for their skill sets and for technical knowledge, but they also have to be a team contributor. They have to be somebody that is going to, make impact, be productive quickly, but also fit the team.
Yeah, and that's so important too. You can have the skill set, but if you're not a team fit, then it's going to be a challenge to integrating and getting along with everybody and being that team player, right?
Absolutely. Yes, 100%.
So you help find the best people, make sure they're a cultural fit, they got the technical fit, you're mitigating risks. So as a recruiter, what are some of the other benefits of for a business owner to engage a recruiter? What are some of the other reasons that someone would consider doing that?
Well, I think I've touched on maybe some of it. It really often comes down to, I deal with busy owners or hiring managers, that this is just one other layer to their responsibilities, where companies certainly can do their own hiring, and there's a consideration to cost saving in that scenario, but it tends to bog them down really quickly. And so someone like me can kind of come in, take on that entire process for them, and be the one to give them their time and their focus back. By taking on the role of being the one to source, attract, engage top talent, and then be the one to introduce them, but take the process so that there is communication with the candidate, the experience the candidate has with the client is being considered. That's a big one too.
Okay.
So, it's their time, it's their focus, that then if I'm taking that piece on, it can enable them to focus on their operations goals, developing new business, whatever they've been pressed for time and haven't been able to get to.
Yeah, it's a great point, because a lot of business owners, that I speak with on a daily basis, focus is definitely a challenge. You have so many things pulling at them for their attention. It can be really difficult to focus on what they really need to focus on. And especially if you've got a role that when you've got a gap in your team, it can be a huge distraction. People are trying to fill that role. They haven't got the right skill sets. So it can be just a huge stressor for the business owner as well. So great. So having recruiters can help save a lot of that time, mitigate the risk, get the right person. So it's a focal point. What are some of the things that business owners should be doing right now to attract great team members now during these challenging times, but also into the recovery?
Yeah, absolutely. Great question, and one that I've been spending a lot of time focusing on. So I would say that companies need to have a pretty well thought out strategy around remote work,
Mm.
but also on virtual hiring and virtual onboarding. That's a really key one because for a lot of businesses, things, there's a lot of companies that are in that essential services market or who are phasing open right now. So, who haven't been able to necessarily stop recruiting or hiring, but it's had to switch. It's turned on its head in many ways.
Yeah.
So being able to switch very quickly to using, conferencing tools like what we're using right now in order to engage and introduce your company and talk a little bit about the opportunity and start the process of sort of pulling through, finding out if people have the particular skill sets that are required and doing that in such a way that there is a level of engagement in that process, that you're getting people excited about wanting to come and join your team. That's a big one. I would say having that thought out is pretty critical right now.
Yeah, having an effective strategy for that. That makes a lot of sense because it's easy to be distracted in the whole remote work environment. And I've heard of, applicants ghosting business owners, just not even showing up
Oh,
for interviews and things like that. So
oh,
yeah,
disappointing.
but it happens, a bit of a human nature thing, I guess, when people are distracted themselves. It's a kind of a crazy time right now. So
Absolutely. Absolutely.
on the
Yeah.
applicant side, what are some of the things the applicants can do to make themselves attractive to businesses? Because there may be some attrition with businesses not surviving the COVID. There's going to be a talent release out to the street, as it were. So it might be even more competitive, I imagine, for people looking for it. Maybe it's good for certain business owners that make it through. So how can the applicant really stand out? How can they make themselves more attractive to a business owner right now?
Great. Fabulous question. Love it. So a couple of things, really marketing yourself well is critical right now. Having great communication skills, good follow-up, good follow-through. But I would say it all kind of starts with a great resume and responding to job ads where you're actually qualified and have the skill sets that the employer is looking for. So that's like, COVID notwithstanding, that's at any point in your job search. I would say that the resume is really critical, that it is your form of marketing. It's the way you're showcasing your skills, but it's also very critical to have the information very concise and succinct, even branded. There's lots of really great things people can do to make a resume stand out, but attract people's attention in a really short amount of time is super critical right now. They say 6 seconds is typical for a recruiter or a hiring manager that can, look through a resume and go, yep, or perhaps no. So being able to be succinct, precise, detailed, have a little bit of flair. These are the things that I would suggest to people right now. And I would say having a good follow-up plan. Often I suggest for candidates to keep track of the positions that they've hired, or rather applied to, so that when they do get a call, they're ready for the call.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say on that readiness side, now it's really critical to have your Zoom game or your Skype game down, where, if you're called upon and somebody's following up on your resume, you want to be ready for that call. You want to be prepared and professional and poised and have, your thoughts collected. That type of thing is really essential. So, being able to be, well put together and dressed and prepared, all of that is really, it's really critical right now above everything, because there's a lot of companies like myself that are using video interviewing tools outside of the Zoom, but they're actually recording their answers to questions. So you got to have you're prepared, you do your research, you think through your questions, have a couple of well thought out questions prepared for when it's your turn to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And then when the interview is wrapped up, I always suggest that a really solid follow-up, an acknowledgement or perhaps a thank you for the opportunity, and gives you an opportunity to restate your interest in the position. It's
Awesome.
a great thing to do.
Helps you stand out.
Mm-hmm.
Well, awesome. Krista, thanks so much. I really appreciate you joining. Thank you for those tips for the applicants and the business owners. And if somebody wanted to get in touch with you, what's the best way to reach you?
Yep, recruitingconcepts.ca is the easiest. I'm also on LinkedIn as Krista Wright. So, and that's probably the easiest way.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Krista.
Thank you for the opportunity. Really appreciate it. Thanks, Dan.